So I'm trying to give you a history or a sense of the history of the terrible events of late 1944. The Holocaust, World War II was almost over in Eastern Europe. But the Nazis just continued to kill Jews. Their priority wasn't even fighting the Soviets, it was killing Jews, killing Jews, killing Jews. So a lot of here in the Doheny Synagogue, the biggest in Europe, a lot of Jews took refuge. This was part of the ghetto. They were living here in squalor. And it was the ghetto. And look at January 18th, 1945, this fine liberated. Look at all the bodies. These are the graves that you see now. These bodies became these graves. So you actually see the people who are buried here, unlike the Holocaust again, they were put into mass graves, or they were incinerated, put into crematoria. Here they got a burial. At least thank God they got a matzeva, they got a monument to their lives, and many of their names were recorded. But you see the shul here, you see the exact same arches, it's the same shul, and you see what this looked like, if you can only imagine. And one day, you're a Hungarian citizen living in peace. The next day, you're a hunted prey, being slaughtered as a Jew. And it's happening now, all around here. After the reign of terror by the hour across the Hungarian Nazis, starvation following siege, 2281 of the victims were buried in 24 mass graves. So these are mass graves, but with the names of many. 2,200 people buried here out of 600,000 murdered. 600,000, mostly at Auschwitz-Birkenau. The significant number of those laid to rest in the mass graves are unnamed, so we only have some of the names. And like I said, this is one of the only places in the world where where Jews are buried in the courtyard of a shul, which is usually not even allowed. Terrible. The relatives, those that could be identified, places, remember. So if you were buried in a mass grave and one of your relatives was still alive, they tried to come here and create a memorial and put some of the names. But the vast majority, of course, were buried anonymously and died anonymously, like the rest of the 6 million. A border to the frame mass grave, some tiny example of the were completed for the 20th anniversary of the liberation of the ghetto. So in about 1965, 20 years later, they created borders around the mass graves. So this is a living memorial to the Holocaust. This is like going to one of the concentration camps. This is like going to Birkenau, Treblinka, where you see the places where the people actually were died. But unlike those extermination camps, the people actually had some kind of burial, albeit a mass burial. And 6 in one of the plaques have been raised in the garden also for the victims to service the Holocaust. They started getting some of the plaques.
They had Jewish people inside, Greeks, of course, those waiting for the